their seat. Thank you. It is now 5:10 in the evening. Welcome to our Wednesday, December 14th, 2011 CRA meeting here at 790 Homestead Boulevard. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Board Member Faircloth McCormick.
Here.
Board Member Maldonado.
Here.
Board Member Shelley.
Here.
Board Member Wallman.
Here.
Board Member Williams.
Here.
Vice Chairman Berger.
Here.
Chairman Bateman.
Here. Deletions and or deferrals. Do we have any? Yes. Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to approval of the minutes, November 8, 2011, CRA board meeting. Motion?
Move it.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay. Questions and comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carries. Okay, tab 2, new business. Lease agreement with Florida Comprehensive Educational Facilities, LLC.
Mayor, before we go there,
Yes, sir.
I have a conflict of interest with the principals of Florida Comprehensive Education Facility. I have a business relationship with them, so I have to excuse myself from this part of the meeting.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, if I could read the resolution to get it in front of us.
Please.
The resolution of the Community Redevelopment Board of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a ground lease agreement between the City of Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency and Florida Comprehensive Education Facilities, LLC, providing for the lease of certain Community Redevelopment Agency property for the construction of a charter school within the Community Redevelopment District, authorizing the execution of the agreement, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to move it on?
Move it.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Okay, staff.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. It's a pleasure to be here again before you. The background on this item, on February 23rd of this year, the city manager received a proposal from the Florida Comprehensive Education Facility, LLC, requesting the CRA board donate the Shotgun House property in order to build and operate a charter school for children during the day and adults at night. On March 2nd, 2011, the board directed staff to begin negotiations with Florida Comprehensive Educational Facility, LLC, to lease the Shotgun House property at $1 a year for a 30-year period in order to build and operate a charter school for children during the day and adults at night. The public notice for disposal of property by Homestead CRA was posted on April 8th, 2011, and we have the attorneys that drafted the lease here to give you a brief summary of what the lease entails and to answering your questions. I'd like to give the floor to Jonathan Cohen.
Okay, can we get a brief summary?
This is Jonathan Cohen, who's the head of our real estate group who worked on this lease and the option. Do you want a summary of the terms?
Yes.
Please.
Good evening, everyone. Jonathan Cohen, as Richard just said. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. The lease is for a 30-year term lease that would commence after the construction of a school, charter school, to be exact. At this point in time, though, the lessee does not have an operator for the school, so the lease would provide for the right for the operator, the LLC entity, to sublet the property to an operator once an operator has been identified to build the school. The school is subject to your approval, and there are certain deadlines that have to be met in order to ensure that the school is built to approved standards. In particular, on the summary, if you'll note, you must receive, review, and approve their plans and specifications for the school on and before December 31st, 2012. Then after that, they have a year to demonstrate to you, to your reasonable satisfaction, that they have sufficient funding to construct and complete the school. Following that, they must complete the school construction on or before August 1st, 2014. However, they can extend that date for an additional year, provided before August of 2014 they provide to you all the plans, they receive all permits, and try to commence construction. In addition, they may also extend their time to complete if there are any force majeure events, in which event their time to complete construction would be extended on a day-for-day basis during the duration of the force majeure. They're responsible for payment of $1 a year ground rental, plus any and all taxes, assessments, or charges which are imposed against the property, so the lease would be a complete net lease to the city. Initially, the school is to have a minimum of 100 student stations for the first year of operating, and it would increase to a minimum of 250 student stations on or before the third year that the school has been completed. The use of the school, which we were having conversation about earlier this afternoon with Councilman Shelley and I and George Gretzis, as well as with the operator of the tenant of the proposed facility, is for educational purposes. There's been a concern as to whether or not that's sufficiently detailed at this point to move forward with the lease as drafted. Presently, it provides for a charter school, but we don't set forth the years, the type of schools. It's rather open-ended because of the fact that there is no operator that has been identified to sublet the property to. The property cannot be further sublet after the operator is identified without the city's consent. The operator is required to indemnify the city, hold it harmless. It is permitted to obtain leasehold financing with the city's consent, and the lease provides for a mechanism in which the property can be financed. Those are the material terms to the lease. If you have any questions, obviously, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, sir. Mayor and Council, questions? Mr. Shelley.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, you did raise the issue regarding defining the school, and did we ever get a resolution of what the definition of school, what both parties understand that to mean?
No, unfortunately, we do not. The issue is whether or not the school is going to be a pre-kindergarten facility. Initially, the operator wants to have the right for it to be pre-kindergarten only, and then grow into an elementary type school, whether it's through grade 6 or 8, and then perhaps a middle school and or a high school. They don't know yet what they exactly are going to do because they're still talking to various operators. So the definition that we were looking for, which would be a charter school for an elementary or middle school or high school or college level facility, they can't agree to at this time.
Okay, because that is a concern that I have, is because it's kind of open-ended to me, and I want to make sure that we're getting what we're looking for, and for me, it's either a K through 8 or a middle school or a high school or maybe a college of some kind. And so not to have that defined in some form or fashion makes me a little uneasy. That's my concern. And so I would like there to be some sort of agreement to that, if possible, versus leaving this open-ended, not knowing exactly what type of school we're going to get. You know, because I know charter school could be defined in many different ways. It's open-ended. It's not defined in the agreement itself. And so again, that's just concerning for me because I don't know what I'm agreeing to.
Well, Councilman, as Jonathan pointed out, it is somewhat open-ended in the lease, so that that's what's before you. If you wanted to change that provision, you would need to make a motion to change that provision to make it more specific.
Thank you, sir. Council? Ms. Waller?
I'll go. Sorry. It's my opinion that anybody who's willing to go into the Southwest area, which is an area that's been neglected for so many years, that I say congratulations. And I know that right now there's probably some discussion, I mean, I'm not sure, I'm sure they can speak for themselves, but as to what grades will be added and when they'll be added, you know, because you're going to have to decide that once you decide on which charter school is going to be running the operation. So I think that I tip my hat to, oh, there he is, to Mr. Rosen for wanting to do this. This is a great undertaking. It's something that the Southwest has deserved for a very, very, very long time. I believe it'll be their first school other than, correct me, Ms. Faircloth, is it Laura Sanders is there, right?
Yes.
Laura Sanders.
Laura Saunders, West Homestead.
Yes, I think that's the only school that they've had, and that school's been in existence for many, many, many years, many years. So I'd be grateful for a K through 5th, even daycare facilities for some of the parents who are trying to work, and hopefully a middle school and then eventually a high school. That's what I'm hoping for. But I can understand having it a little open-ended in the contract in the beginning. So thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comment? Yes?
Yes, I just have a couple of questions. At what point will it be solidified as far as which grade levels you'll target, be it K-5, K-8, or high school? And then I have follow-up questions.
My name is Wayne Rosen, 277 Galleon Court. I would think that we'll be back in the next 120 days with a full presentation on what charter school company and we're looking at a daycare operator to come in with us. We think that that the daycare and preschool is the most important grades to get started, educate those kids, and then come in with the charter school, and whether that be a K through 5 first, or the 5 through 12. We may apply and get those charters, but we would not start any grades other than first, second, or third, because as you're aware, Councilwoman, the grading system starts in the 4th grade. So we want to take a slow growth method of teaching the kids and moving them up through the curriculum in the school.
When you say, if I may, Mayor,
Sure.
when you say daycare, do you mean pre-K through 2nd, or just daycare age children, meaning pre-K?
It's probably going to be a component of each of those.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know traditionally, and with new schools, they tend to phase in the grade levels, being pre-K through 2nd or pre-K through 3rd, but since the assessments, Florida Comprehension Assessment Test begins in 3rd grade, then if this is proposed, then I would recommend pre-K through 2nd to phase in, and then 3rd through 5th. My other question is, as far as operators to operate the school, who have you reached out to? Do you have any leads to operate the school at this point, or where are we in that process?
Yes, we've met with the superintendent of schools. Dade County would like us to bring the school system in as the management component of this school. We're waiting to get an indication of what curriculum they want to put together, and then I plan on coming back in front of the council and going over the curriculum and making sure it was acceptable to you. I've met with a daycare group. They have 10 daycares around Dade County, very successful, and I'm meeting with them again Monday morning with the former chairman of the Dade County School Board, Gus Barrera, who's also working as a consultant for us. And this group actually has applied for 8 charters, and they were issued the charters and have been operating along with their daycare for the last 4 years. Excuse me, let me backtrack. For the past 4 years, they've been in the charter school business itself, and they've been very successful and have an A rating. So, I may within a month be able to determine that they're the best group to bring in. I'm waiting to see what type of curriculum, again, from the school board, and also the agreement that they're putting together at this point in time.
And just a final comment, if this application moves forward for this charter school in the Southwest, and if I may be a part of the process to develop the curriculum, I would welcome that opportunity, because I recognize that the population that you're targeting is a very fragile population. So we have to be very painstakingly thorough with how we move forward as far as elevating teaching and learning in that community. It's near and dear to my heart, the Southwest, and if I can assist in that process, if this application is approved, I would be forever grateful.
And I would appreciate your assistance. There's one other group that we're waiting to meet with next week, and I'm sure you're very familiar with it, that's Teachers for America. And I've seen some good articles and some negative articles, so we need to make sure that we are bringing in the right group.
Actually, I have 15 Teach for America teachers at my school, so we can have a conversation about it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Shelley.
Mr. Mayor, just as a follow-up, again, I'm still concerned about kind of defining, because what I'm afraid of is that since it's so open-ended, you keep talking about daycare. I mean, I know that's not your goal. The goal is to bring in a elementary and potentially more at some point in time as the demand provides for itself, but I don't want to end up running into the risk of this ended up being a daycare because we have no kind of language within here that allows us, the city, to protect our interest in putting a school there. And so I don't know if we do that by defining the term school, or whether or not can we put something in there that requires, if you're talking about 120 days coming back with more information, can we put some sort of clause in there that allows us to then reassess what is going forward? It gives us an out, because that's my concern, is I don't want to agree to a 30-year lease to find out that we have no way of doing anything if it's just a daycare going forward, because that's not what I envision going there. What I envision going there is hopefully a K-8, maybe a middle school, maybe a high school, something to add to that neighborhood and to provide quality education in that area. And I'm not getting it per se from you right now. I know the intention's good, but I just have some concern voting for something that doesn't give the city the ability to have some sort of say in that school. So whether we define school now, or whether we do some sort of 120 days, you come back and give us a presentation, and then we can make a secondary decision. What are our options there?
We can do it any way you like. We can define the word school to be whatever you want it to be in the lease. You could set up a procedure where it's more flexible, and let that before the operator can begin construction, he's got to come back and get approval as to the type of the school. But we can write whatever you want to do, but those are the kind of options. I don't know what's acceptable, and I don't know if the manager has a comment, but and we can write whatever you'd like, but those are two options.
If the policy, if there's a comfort level for the policy of it needs to be something between K through 12 and or college, if you want to kind of create that box, that anything that fits within that, then that would be easy to do, assuming the applicant is comfortable with that.
I think I'm comfortable with the language that says that after the daycare is open, then the following years we will then open a charter school, and that our plan is to open up and get registration for several grades. It'll be, first grade and second grade, and as long as there's registration, we would have the charter school that opened up.
I think
if not, if for some reason we didn't get the registered students, then according to that agreement, we would have to give up the site.
Right, and I think what the councilman is asking for is, as long as before the longer term kicks in, we have something that fits in with the box of K through whatever. If you're comfortable with that, then that's a couple of sentences in the agreement.
What, K through
whatever you
3?
I want something K and above, and then wherever you stop is your choice. But I want to make sure that when this substantial completion, when you open in 2 years, according to this agreement, that we're not dealing with just a daycare. I want to know that there is a K or a first grade or a K through third grade in the ground, and then we build from there, not still just having a daycare and not being able to do anything about it as a city. That's what I'm concerned about.
So you could have something from K through college, anything in between, as long as it fits within that box. I think what the councilman is suggesting is, as long as before the long-term lease kicks in, we have a school.
Right.
It's a real school, and it's certain grade levels, and it can be your choice as long as it fits within that box. And if you're comfortable with that, I'm sure the lawyers could suggest some language.
I'm comfortable with that, and if you can draft the language, I'll look at it, and we could insert it, but that's the intent, is to do the preschool, the daycare, and open up the actual school itself, the charter school, which would be first or second grade.
The concern is that, well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The concern is that you build something, open it up, and then if you don't open up a charter school, then it's an issue of, and it's a matter of default. And then we end up with I don't know what. And that's the concern, that there should really be a commitment really for the type of school before you open up. I don't know if that is reasonable.
No, I think that's reasonable. We could come back, and I plan on coming back with a presentation and disclose who we're going to bring in and bring it to the council and make sure you approve of the group that we're bringing in with ourselves.
I think as long as the board is comfortable with fitting within the criteria of before the long-term lease kicks in, it fits within the box of K through 12 or K through whatever you're comfortable with. But if you're comfortable with K through 12, it fits in that box. If the board is okay with that, that's a simple language change, and we should be okay. Jonathan, correct? Yes. So if you're comfortable with that,
Well, I think the question's coming from one individual right now, so you need to address that individual. I don't have that question.
So procedurally, if Councilman Shelley wants to add some language to the...
I'll make that motion to add language in there to, somewhere between, well, whatever, yeah, K through 12, and he can do something in between. But I want to make sure that we have that in place before the lease kicks in. So whatever you need to do to add that language.
before the longer-term lease.
The longest, yes, correct, the longer-term lease before the substantial completion portion.
Is there a second to that?
I second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second on the table. Go through the further discussion and open the public comment before we can go back. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question. So this would take effect on the August of 2014 is when we're saying that he has to have this plan in place?
No,
I mean, for the school to start at that.
right, subject to, they have a one-year extension right, provided they have all the permits, they know your criteria, and they're proceeding in good faith, they can extend for an additional year.
Thank you.
Ms. Coleman? That's all right.
I was talking to myself, actually.
That's okay.
It's hard to hear up here because of all the fans and you know, all the things that are going on. I couldn't hear what you said.
They have a right to extend the completion date for an additional year, provided they've received all the permits, they've got their financing in place, and they've made an effort to start construction.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any further comment?
Yes, I have
please.
just one final question. Has this been vetted in the Southwest community about this proposed charter school to ensure that this is something that the Southwest wants?
Sure, Ed.
No, we have not had any focus groups. It's just our understanding that it is needed, and your K through 8, which is a block away, has been consistently rated, as you were aware, a D school. So we know of in the Southwest that a good charter school would be, we think, beneficial for the kids there. But we could certainly do a focus group in the Southwest.
Okay. Hearing no further questions from council, I'll open the public hearing. General public speak in opposition or in favor, please come to the podium. Okay, hearing none and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. And final questions from council.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Last year, back in 2010, I recall that I had asked for this council to consider helping bring a school in the Southwest section. There wasn't a focus that was not a focus group, but I was out there speaking to some of the residents that were out there as the chair of the education committee, and they look forward to, as we mentioned, bringing a charter school to the area. So it was favorable. I know that this piece of property has been sitting there for quite a while, and I'm always the type I like to see something better than nothing. And education is definitely the building block of our community. So I'm glad to see where we're heading towards. I can understand the concern of my colleague where, starting with just a daycare and then not having any hooks in there so we could see something. But, I'm confident that you'll bring another school, a charter school, to this area. But I know because of the area, there seems to be a difficulty, or people might not believe that a charter school can go there and be successful. But I think if you bring the right operator with the right attitude, I think you could create a great school that will greatly benefit our students here in Homestead. So with that, again, thank you for taking a stand and bringing another school, hopefully, very soon to the Southwest section. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
All right, we'll vote on the amended motion. Richard,
First on the amendment, and then
yeah,
on the
would
motion.
you rephrase it, the amended motion, please? For the public.
The amendment is to add language to the lease that would require that the school be K through 12.
Okay. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Vice
The
Chairman,
permanent school be K through 12.
Oh, K through 12?
Right. Before the permanent 30-year lease kicks in.
It doesn't have to be a K through 12, but it must be some variation between grades K through 12.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Madam Clerk?
Vice Chairman Burgess,
Yes.
Board Member Fairclough McCormick,
Yes.
Board Member Shelley,
Yes.
Board Member Maldonado,
Yes.
Board Member Wallman,
Yes.
Chairman Bateman,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Okay, now we'll vote on the amendment as originally outlined here. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Board Member Maldonado,
Yes.
Board Member Shelley,
Yes.
Board Member Wallman,
Yes.
Board Member Fairclough McCormick,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burgess,
Yes.
Chairman Bateman,
Yes.
the motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Council.
And then we'll move on to the next item. Will be Dade Medical, option to purchase agreement. Option to purchase agreement for purchase of CRA lots. I will entertain a motion.
Let me just read the title.
You want
of
to
the
read it
resolution. Resolution of the Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving option agreement for the purchase of real property between the City of Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency and Florida Education Center of Homestead, LLC. Authorize execution of the agreement, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Is there a motion?
I move it.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Staff report, please.
Vice Chairman, the CRA staff seeks board direction on proposed sale of CRA properties. To give you a bit of the background on this item, on February 23rd, 2011, Dade Medical College, or DMC, presented Homestead CRA Board with a proposal to purchase several properties owned by the CRA. The proposal included the sale of 21 lots at a purchase price of $658,950. On March 2nd, 2011, the board instructed staff to begin negotiations with DMC on the proposed sale. The board's direction included staff commissioning appraisals of the proposed lots, as well as a motion to move ahead with negotiations and with the stipulation of the process advertised by the city attorney to include a 30-day public notice requirement for selling CRA properties and removing the request from the proposal for the city to pay the realtor commission. The 30-day public notice was posted on April 8, 2011. The appraisal was completed June 11, 2011. On November 8, 2011, DMC presented the city and the CRA with the attached amended proposal. DMC has proposed the purchase of 19 lots at a purchase price of $328,000. They are also requesting the CRA finance 80% of the accepted purchase price for $262,400 at 5% interest rate with principal and interest amortized over 15 years with a 5-year balloon and no prepayment penalty if the loan is paid off early. On November 16, 2011, the board directed staff to negotiate an option to purchase agreement with DMC for the 19 lots and at the proposed price, which included development timelines with a firm commitment to build, a delineation of what is intended to be built, including densities, approximate square footages, heights, and allocation of uses, and the tax analysis showing taxable versus non-taxable portions of the project and estimated ad valorem tax revenues. Again, Jonathan Cohen here, who drafted the option agreement, is here to give you a brief summary of what the option parameters are and to answer any of your questions.
The option would be for a term of 2 years. The Florida Education Center of Homestead, LLC would have to provide to you within the 2-year time frame proof satisfactory to you, providing a detailed description of a project which would consist of a combination of retail and/or medical outpatient facilities and/or classroom facilities of at least 25,000 square feet, which we define as the project. As part of the approval process, they would also have to show you complete architectural and engineering drawings, renderings, and plans, provide a tax analysis indicating the percentage of the project that will yield an ad valorem tax revenue to the city, provide evidence that all requisite site plan approvals have been obtained, as well as provide evidence that they have financing commitment to build the project. The purchase terms, if they do meet and satisfy the criteria I just went through, they would then be able to exercise the option by sending written notice to the CRA with a $10,000 deposit and a signed purchase and sale agreement in a form to be attached to the option agreement, at which point we would close on the property. There would be the 5-year term financing amount of $262,000 based on a 15-year amortization with 5% interest with a balloon payment at maturity. The balance of the purchase price would be paid at closing. The terms of the financing would provide that the purchase money mortgage would not be assignable, that there would be a due on sale provision, there would be no prepayment penalty. It would also provide for a covenant that the project would be completed within 24 months from the date of the closing. In addition, the deed that would be given to the buyer would provide for a restrictive covenant against the property being utilized for residential development prior to the completion of the project, a covenant that the project would in fact be completed within 24 months, and a reversionary clause if there's a default of the covenant. Those are the essential terms of the option agreement.
Any questions? Mr. Shelley?
Mr. Chair. Yeah, no, I was glad to see, I know that at the last meeting we had a conversation, and I was glad to see that we were able to come up with something that put a lot of protection in there for us as the city. I think this is a good deal for all parties. It allows the project to go forward, and I did meet with Mr. Perez, and he has a great vision for the downtown, and I think there's going to be some good things that happen, but this also makes it a good deal for the city. The city is protected, and I think all the way around, so I'm happy with it as it stands.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Waldman?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I've often said that, to me, when Dade Medical College came to Combe Avenue, it was a blessing. And it's the best thing that's happened to our city in a very, very long time, because you put your money where your mouth is, and you did what you said you were going to do. I mean, I go downtown now and I see people walking and shopping and eating in restaurants, and it's alive. You've brought life to us. And I was thrilled when you shared a vision with me over a year ago when you said, wouldn't it be great if we could bring a college to Homestead? So I'm very proud of you, Ernesto Perez. I'm very proud of you because you did what you said you were going to do. And I want to give kudos to the attorney because a lot of you know I've been in the buying and selling of mortgages since 1986, and it's not often somebody can explain it that easily and have all the terms right there, because I was going to get my little financial calculator out and start figuring, but you did a great job explaining it, and you did a great job putting all those things in the contract. Thank you, Mr. Perez, for appreciating the work that our attorneys do every day for us, but you did a great job, and I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I would just like to say thank you. I mean, we had some conditions put upon you that maybe weren't the best moving forward in your business plan, but you stepped up and accepted them on behalf of the city and yourself. So thank you for taking the commitment even a little bit further than you have down there. I think it shows that you really do have a vision. You are committed to making it work down there, and that you have the interest of the community also by going by some tough things that Mr. Shelley had asked for last time that probably weren't in your mind when you came here. So with that, I'll just say thank you also. Ms. McCormick?
Yes. Since this application was before us the last time, I would like to thank you for being responsive to the needs of this council, but more importantly to the needs of this community. I have not had the opportunity to sit down and meet with you yet, but I welcome that opportunity so that we can sit down and talk specifics about your vision for downtown and Dade Medical College.
Well, thank you very much, folks. Anybody else? Mr. Maldonado?
Just a quick question to the applicant. Mr. Perez, how many years have you already been down in the downtown area since you opened up the Dade Medical College?
Councilman, we've currently been there about 3 years, of which the first year was a bit difficult. There was definitely a different administration up at the pulpit, and I commend you guys that you guys have actually fallen into sync, and you understand. I believe individually you folks always understood that it's about the community, as you just said, but it's nice to see that you guys are finally starting to work like a team, and I'm just saying that the previous administration was a bit more difficult. And again, so we've been there, to answer your question directly, as I said, just about 3 years. We intend to be there for a much longer period of time, probably longer than, well, I'll stick around, in all honesty. Wish we could all live forever, but the bottom line is we intend to do a lot of great things, and with your support and the support of the community, I think we'll be able to accomplish those things.
Thank you. And the reason I ask that, because definitely since I've come on board as an elected official, I've noticed that the traffic in downtown Homestead has increased significantly. And I've drive by there, and I seem to have this problem, Mr. Manager, with parking every time I go down there now. So hopefully that's something we could address in the near future. Thank you, Mr. Perez, for all the hard work you do in this community, all that you've done. So we look forward to working with you and seeing your vision come to fruition.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams, anything?
Well, he's already, we've already talked, and he's met all the conditions that my colleagues have already implicated. So I know that you will try to improve in the last time we heard your application, and so I've always been very supportive of Dade Medical College. So congratulations on that.
Is there, I'll open up the public comments. Anybody in favor or against that would like to speak, please come up.
Hi, Robert Barnes, 221 North Chrome Avenue, Homestead, president of Main Street Organization. We voted unanimously to support Dade Medical College on this project. We think it's going to be great for our future. We think Mr. Ernesto is a visionary. And as an architect and as a stakeholder and a business person downtown, as a person that's been in this community for, we have 5 generations, all of me are in accordance with this. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Koenig-Morgan from one of the 5 owners of the Taliban of Surrey, and I can't really speak to what the plans are, but from what we've seen since we've been downtown and what Mr. Perez has done, hiring a security guard for the parking lot has made our area a lot safer, and closing the motel that was right there, that really affected our business a lot before it was closed, and so we're very grateful for that.
Ted Greer, Senior Pastor, Ebenezer Community Church, and CEO of Fresh Start Family Services. Stand here in support of Dade Medical College. I find them to be a tremendous, great corporate citizen in this community. They have been supporting a lot of the projects that we've done in the community in terms of reaching out to those that are less fortunate. We had a big Thanksgiving drive, and Dade Medical College gave us 100 turkeys so we can feed some hungry people who did not have something to eat for Thanksgiving. They helped us out with our toy drive, anything that we're doing in this community, and they've done that from day one, and we appreciate them. So we stand in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the council before we close this? All right, with that, I'll close. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Board Member Fairclough McCormick?
Yes.
Board Member Shelley?
Yes.
Board Member Williams?
Yes.
Board Member Maldonado?
Yes.
Board Member Wallman?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Burgess?
Yes.
The motion carried.
Next item, landscape maintenance.
Mr. Vice Chair, before Jonathan Cohn leaves, I would like to thank him and Rick from the CRA as well as the rest of the manager's staff. I know John needs to go home and get some sleep, but because both of these deals he did in about a week. So I would like to thank him for that help and appreciate the cooperation that we had from the manager's staff, from Rick, and from the other people involved.
Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Send her home. It looks warm.
Thank you, Rick. I thanked you earlier today, but thank you again. Thank you.
Okay. Next item, landscape maintenance.
The requested action is a motion to approve the award for bid 201127 landscape maintenance. The staff recommends the board approve and award the bid for the CRA landscape maintenance solicitation to the lowest bidder, Valley Crest Landscape Maintenance, in accordance with the updated bid tabulations as provided as Exhibit 2. The contract covers landscaping maintenance of CRA right-of-ways, medians, and alleyways within the CRA district. The initial term runs from January 1, 2011 through September 30th, 2013. Providing the successful bidder agrees to maintain the same terms and conditions, the contract could be extended for an additional 2 years on a year-to-year basis if mutually agreed upon by both parties. The total contract cost is $464,581.75 annually, of which $269,831.50 is covered by Parks and Recreation Department and $194,750.25 by the CRA.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
I move it. Second. Question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Let me ask you, is this the same, this is not the same vendor we had last year, is it? This is a new vendor?
No, sir.
This is a new vendor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is the, did the old vendor submit a proposal?
Yes, but I think...
We do have a protest, so Jerry is here to brief you on that element of this. Jerry?
Vice Chair and members of the board, I'm just going to give a quick, short summary of the landscaping bid. In other words, to put the gentleman's protest in context. In early September of this year, procurement went out for solicitation for landscape and maintenance citywide. This included both CRA and city-owned properties. In early October, the responses came in, the tabulations were put together, and procurement worked closely with both the CRA director and the Parks and Rec director for looking at cut frequencies and things of that nature. At that time, the tabulation showed that SFM was the lowest bidder and Valley Crest was the second lowest bidder. Now, due to budgetary constraints, both directors of CRA and Parks and Recreation determined that they couldn't move forward with the solicitation as it was. So the idea was to actually remove certain parcels from the solicitation and put it under the city's maintenance. In other words, through the trustees, cutting the grass, things of that nature. On November 7th, letters were sent out to both SFM and Valley Crest stating this, indicating that the tabulation numbers had changed, asking them if they were in agreement with this and if we could move forward. Both responded in writing that they were 2 days later. As a result of these changes on the tabulation, SFM became the second lowest bidder while Valley Crest became the lowest bidder. A meeting was held with SFM on or around November 17th, where we spoke to the owner and his son, I believe. CRA was there, the CRA director as well as the Parks and Rec director and myself. We explained the situation. They understood what we were saying, but they reserved the right to file a protest. On December 6th, they went ahead and filed the protest.
Okay. Follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
In this, my main concern is that, so you're saying now that the trustees will be doing some of the, is that also within the CRA that the trustees will be cutting some lots?
If I can defer this to Mr. Maytan, because he's in charge of those groups and the areas that need to be cut.
Councilman Williams, they will be used for the, most of ours will be used to do with our own selves in Parks and Recreation, and in some of the lots will be used by inmate crews. Those are, we get certain days from the CRA and the inmate crews that we have. We split them in different days, so I'll be using them the days that I have them.
Okay, because my main concern was I know sometimes we can't control how corrections in their scheduling with the inmates. And so I just want to make sure that there will be some consistency in that process to make sure that nothing goes lacking because of the services by you switching them to the inmate crews, which we probably sometimes have no control over of their scheduling or time. Am I right?
Yes, sir, you're right. When the CRA director was hired, me and him got a discussion together, and we worked it out what days we're going to use for CRA and what days we're going to use for Parks and Rec. So those are the options that me and the CRA director has worked out.
So then, let me ask this other follow-up question or statement. Would you be able to provide me, once again, a schedule of the inmate crews when they're going to be cutting, so that, because the problem that I find, if we're going to go this option in order to be, fit in the budget or be economical as possible, that I don't want those thoroughfares or those ways to be neglected because of servicing. And I think the people deserve the right-of-ways to be neat as possible. And so I understand what we're doing with the budget, but I want to make sure that we have a schedule so that I'll be informed on when the time when they'll be cutting and all of that. So would you provide that for me, please?
Yes, sir, Councilman Williams.
My colleagues up here, I'm pretty sure they will want one as well.
Yes, sir, Councilman Williams, I'll take care of that and I'll give that to you. And also, the new crews that we do hire, they do work in the CRA area themselves, going through Southwest 4th Street, Redland Road. So they do help out a lot more with us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
To be fair, I'm assuming this is SFM over here?
Yes.
If you would like, approximately how much time do you think would be fair for you to present your claim here tonight?
Just a handful of minutes.
Okay. We'll give you 5, we'll start with 5 minutes. If you need more, we'll give you some more, because I know this is a big issue for you, so.
Well, thank you. I wasn't sure if it was initially appropriate to present now or during the regular council meeting, but we can address it now, and...
We'll go ahead and address it now.
Okay, good.
And then what we'll do is we'll incorporate your comments into the minutes of the main council meeting, so you don't need to do it twice.
Okay.
Group is the same. Audience is the same.
Thank you. My name is Mark Stempler, and I represent SFM Services. We did file a bid protest on December 6th regarding this ITB. And the reason that we did so is because if the city were to go ahead and adopt the recommended award to Valley Crest, doing so would be arbitrary, capricious, and contrary to Florida law. The way that this ITB was set forth is that there were there were landscape sites set forth in the ITB, and they were specified. And they were put into 2 groups, Group 1 and Group 2. And the bidders were to submit bids for Group 1 and a separate bid for Group 2. And the city basically had the option to select the lowest responsible bidder for the entire project, Groups 1 and 2, or it could choose 1 bidder for Group 1 and 1 for Group 2. The bids were submitted on October 6, 2011, and I think they were opened at the same time and evaluated and ranked. And as the gentleman pointed out, SFM was initially the top-ranked bidder based on that evaluation, overall and specifically for Group 1. On October 18th, I think, it's a little difficult to tell from the tabulation sheet, but on or around then, the scores were, or I should say the bids were reevaluated. And before I get to that, I'm going to jump ahead to early November when SFM received a letter from the city saying that the city is going to remove certain sites from consideration in this ITB. And it specified what sites were going to be removed, and it said you can either agree to this or we're not going to consider your bid. And SFM Services had some questions at that point. They weren't able to be answered at that point, but given little choice, they had to accept the removal of these sites from the consideration. So now going back to October, when apparently these bids had been evaluated with these sites removed before my client was even advised of this, according to that re-ranking, Valley Crest was deemed the lowest ranked bidder for Groups 1 and 2 and overall. Subsequently, the recommended award went to them. Now, the issue that we have is that the city had no authority to remove those sites from the ITB evaluation process at that point in time. What Section 2.20 of the ITB says is that although the solicitation identifies specific locations to be serviced and maintained, it is hereby agreed and understood that any new location, may be added or deleted to or from this contract at the option of the city at a negotiated price. So what the city has done, or did I should say, is it removed sites from consideration after the bids were submitted, after the bids were opened and evaluated, but before a contract was awarded. And it had no authority to do so because that section 2.20 says they can be added or I should say removed from the contract at the option of the city. There was no contract in place at that point. In addition, section 2.2 says any new location can be deleted from the contract. The sites that were removed were part of the initial invitation for bid. They weren't new. Because the decision was made during the evaluation process after the bids had been open, renders such a decision to do so arbitrary and capricious because the city is going outside of the advertised solicitation. The ITB is advertised, the specifications are in there for a reason, and the city is obligated by Florida law to follow those specifications. It can't make up the rules as it goes. I don't know if you've been provided with a copy of my protest. I have extra copies here. I cited numerous cases, and what they basically say is that you can't change the rules in the middle of the game. You can't make up parameters in which to evaluate the bidders after the solicitation has been advertised, after the bids have been received. Had there been perhaps an addendum issued before the bids were submitted, that might be a different story, but that is not what happened here. Instead, the city has essentially changed the rules of the evaluation, extracted sites, and as a result, my client is now not the lowest bidder, but would be the second lowest. By doing this, the city opens itself up really to criticism because it leaves room for manipulation of the bids. For example, the city could advertise specifications, say we're going to evaluate on X, Y, and Z, and if they don't like the guy that's ranked first, they could just remove Y and Z and say, no, the other guy's the winner. That's arbitrary, that's capricious, and that is what the cases say violates Florida law. The law is crystal clear that the agency cannot change its specifications after the bids have been submitted. I could go through the cases for you if you'd like, but that's really the summary of them. What the city needs to do, because of the way that this evaluation process was conducted, is either recommend the award to my client, SFM Services, or throw out the process and issue a new ITB and re-solicit bids. That's the only fair way to resolve the error that's happened here in the evaluation process.
Any comments from the attorney?
First of all, I think, as you know, it's up to the council to accept, reject, or order rebidding if you'd like to. I guess from the legal point of view, we feel very comfortable with what staff did. There's specific language in the bid document that the city reserves the right to add or delete properties to the list at its sole discretion. And so we feel that what the staff did was legally appropriate. And so I respectfully disagree with him, and we feel like the staff certainly had the right to do what they did.
Question or comment?
I got one quick question, if I could, through the manager, to Jerry. What is the home address of SFM? Are they a local vendor, and would the local vendor ordinance that we've put in come into play here, where Valley Crest would have an opportunity to meet whatever was given to them anyway?
SFM, if I'm not mistaken, is not a local vendor. Valley Crest is. In terms of the tabulations, we never got to that point to determining the 15% local vendor preference at that point, because immediately the departments realized, due to budgetary constraints, this wasn't going to work. So at that point is when we put several options on the table. One was obviously go out to solicitation again The other one was actually to remove areas that we could take care of ourselves. And once again, Mr. Maytan can elaborate on that. These are areas that is just mow the lawn. There is no trimming of trees or replanting plants, things of that nature. And due to time constraints, I believe, for, once again, budgetary reasons, they didn't want to go back out for solicitation. So this was the in-between solution to go ahead and get this through already and move forward with it.
Just to just clarify the answer to your question, the only time that the local vendor preference would come into place is if the local vendor was not the low bidder.
Well, my question goes back to then on his statement, they came in second, is what he's saying.
No, what happened was the first time that when the bids were evaluated with all the properties in place, the local vendor was second.
Correct.
But
within the 15%.
But that never really became important because after the staff looked at it and determined that they couldn't really afford what they had asked for, they went back and removed the properties. And once the reevaluation took place, the local vendor was the low bidder, and so forth. Therefore, it didn't need the local preference in order to be recommended for the contract.
I guess the point that I'm trying to make, and maybe it's not coming out clear, is that Valley Crest would have had an opportunity to meet and match because they fell within the 15% even on that first bid. And therefore, they could have taken the opportunity to say, okay, we'll pay that much money, whatever the difference was, and they would have gotten the job at whatever the job had been bid out at.
They would have the opportunity to lower their price.
Correct.
If I may, on the original tabulation for the Group A, or Supplement A, Group 1 evaluation, like I said, it was in two groups, Group 1 and Group 2. If you just look at Group 1, I think that our client, SFM, came in at 200, Valley Crest bid about 265. They wouldn't have even thought, if that local preference had been applied, it wouldn't have fallen within the 15% anyway. So it really makes little difference. The local preference adds to that Group 1 evaluation. And the other thing I'd like to point out is that even if the city had gone ahead and awarded to SFM as it should have in the original evaluation, under Section 2.2 of the ITB, it still had the opportunity to remove sites from the contract that it would have entered into with SFM. So it would have accomplished its goal of saving the money that it didn't have either way. It just chose to do it in a fashion that wasn't contemplated by the ITB and is certainly improper under Florida law.
Questions? I had a question.
Councilman.
Mr. Williams, you want to please go?
Sure.
Well, I was going to say that I trust our competent staff in what they have done. The process is not flawed. The language is in our bidding document. And so I understand exactly what you're trying to do and say, but I think what they have presented their case, it's due to budgetary constraints. We have the ability to do what we did, and so I'm going to support our recommendation from the staff and move this item.
Yeah. Mr. Maldonado?
Yeah, I just got a question because Mr. Estrada just, my question is, how does the budget restraints affect you from going back out to the bid process? Because I heard you say that, so.
I believe it was a timing issue. I mean, I spoke to the CRA director, and I believe Dennis also, and one of the options was to resolicit, but it was pretty firm that, you know, we wanted to go ahead and move with this particular solicitation because it's costing the city money now for the maintenance that they're currently using.
Yes.
Fair Clock McCormick.
Thank you. You mentioned some very strong adjectives, arbitrary and capricious, and the city had little or no authority to proceed in that manner. But I say that we have to be fiduciary responsible, as well as our staff, to ensure that the decisions that we make are within the constraints of our budget. So I don't feel that this process was completed arbitrarily, because it was completed because we didn't have the money to do so. So how did you expect us to proceed if we didn't have the money? It's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer that.
I can answer if you'd like.
Can I finish? Yes. Okay. My next comment is, did you have the opportunity to read the document that SFM signed saying that they agree with how we were proceeding?
Yes, and as I stated in my initial presentation, the way that unfolded was they were provided a letter saying, from the city, saying the city's going to remove these sites from consideration, agree, or we're not going to consider your bid. So a bit of a catch-22 for SFM services. They had no choice but to agree at that point, even though the city did not have the ability at that stage in the evaluation to remove those properly. Doing so violates the specifications in the ITB, and doing so violates Florida law.
So when you received the document, when they signed, would you come to staff or someone indicating that they had little or no choice to sign? Because
Yes.
it seems like you're coming in after the fact.
We did. In fact, one of the exhibits to my protest, which I could provide to you, is an email from SFM to the city saying, we signed this letter, but we have questions and we'd like them answered, and I believe it was addressed to Cynthia, but she wasn't available at the time.
If I could respond to the gentleman. In your package, there is a copy of the letter that was sent to Valley Crest. It's the exact same letter. And the section the gentleman is referring to in terms of responding or you will be deemed as unresponsive, it's just one paragraph, and I'd like to read it to you. Please advise in letter form if the form accepts, if your firm accepts the above referenced contract modification via email to our address no later than 5 p.m. Wednesday, November 9th, 2011. Failure to respond to this request by the designated deadline will result in the City of Homestead deeming your company as non-responsive. We're asking them to respond to us in writing. It doesn't say you have to agree. It doesn't say you have to disagree. It just says, please respond to us in writing by this date. If we do not hear from you, we will deem you as unresponsive.
Sir, did you not understand that?
No, we understand perfectly, but as I've explained, what the city is saying is you can either agree to what we're doing, even though it's improper according to the specifications, according to Florida law, or we're going to deem your bid as non-responsive, meaning you're not going to compete for this award. Now, SFM has been the incumbent for 3 years prior, and before receiving this letter, they were even informed by someone at the city, congratulations, you've won the bid. You're going to take both groups. But once they received this letter, they didn't have a choice as to whether to agree to it or not. And even their ascension to it, which they did under protest to some extent because they had questions that were never answered, even their ascension to this agreement does not justify the city going outside the scope of the bid specifications, changing the rules of the evaluation, changing the parameters. That's not a cure for it.
So what do you recommend? He won't give you the contract or take it back out to bid? Because from what I understand, we don't have the financial resources to be able to do that.
The city has a couple options. One, it could award to SFM as it was originally intending to do and as it was proper to do. And then once that contract is entered into, remove those sites that the city can no longer budget for or afford from that contract. Two, it could rebid the entire process. Or three, what might be the best solution is award Group 1 to SFM, because under the original evaluation, SFM was the highest ranked firm, the highest ranked bidder, I should say, for the Group 1 services. If Valley Crest is number 1 for Group 2, allow them to proceed with Group 2. So they split it. But that was what would have been the proper way to do it under the original evaluation, which is what should have carried the day.
I have no further questions.
Just a quick question. I guess I'm having a small trouble trying to figure out that part. I heard it, but I want you to explain how Plainy State, they won the initial contract overall. I know it was split up to two parcels and then ended up going to Valley Crest because of the changes. Can you re-explain that to us?
Okay. The initial tabulations come in. They were added up. Once again, SFM was the lowest bidder, Valley Crest the second lowest. And once again, when the CRA director and the Parks director got together to look at the different areas that they can go ahead and select for cutting, they determined fiscally they didn't have the money. Okay? At that point, we had two options. Either throw out the solicitation, go back out again, okay? Option two was take out areas that the city itself can actually take care of, okay? It's just cutting the grass, and once again, Mr. Maytan can elaborate on that. Option two was selected because right now they're under a bid extension, if I'm not mistaken, and it's actually costing the city to continue our current agreement with them, okay? Both SFM and Valley Crest were notified in writing, telling them about the change, asking them if they were in agreement or not. What we did ask was please respond to us by a certain date. If you don't respond to us, then we're going to deem you as unresponsive, okay? They could have responded back and said, you know what, we don't agree with this, okay? And we would have taken it at that point. We might still be standing here doing a protest, okay? But that's not what happened. They responded back stating that they were in agreement, but they had some questions. In fact, the email came back to our procurement director saying, as for our discussion, we are in receipt and agreement with your letter. However, I do have questions. I'm not completely clear with the letter. Okay? Please ask Cynthia, the buyer who handled the solicitation, to go ahead and call them. Subsequently, we had a meeting with them. Also, once again, CRE director, myself, and the parks director explained what was going on. They seemed to understand what was going on, but they reserved the right at that point to go ahead and file a protest.
One other thing to clarify is in terms of why not rebid. Well, if we had items 1 through 10, and then we decide, well, we want to toss 3 of them because we can't afford them, which the document says we can do if we want to delete. Now we have 7 items, and then when you compare the 7 items, and then the one firm is cheaper than the other, if we said, oh, well, we're going to now rebid, what do we tell the other firm now? Because we had the 7, we compared, they were the cheapest, and we decided to go with them. What's the justification for rebidding when, in fact, the rule of the game was give us your menu items. We have reserve the right to pick what we want, and whatever we pick, the lowest price is going to be factored in, and that's pretty much what the staff did.
If I may interject something. I just want to clarify. The city doesn't get to pick from the menu at the stage in time that it did. If they say, give us your price for 10 items, and we price those 10 items and submit it as a bid, and those things are opened, the evaluation, according to Florida law and according to this bid document, the city's own specification says you must evaluate these 10 criteria. Now, if SFM is deemed the lowest bidder, which it was in the initial evaluation, and the city didn't have the money for those 3 sites or whatever it wanted to remove, it could have done so after entering into the contract with SFM. That's what Section 2.2 allows the city to do. It does not allow the city to do it before a recommended award is made, before a contract is entered into. The city would be in a same or similar position had it entered into the contract and removed those sites. Now, the city does have, again, options here, because under the initial evaluation, Group 1 went to SFM, and SFM was $65,000 cheaper than Valley Crest. Valley Crest was the lowest ranked for Group 2. The city could split the groups, as it has the authority to do in the specifications. But the point is that the city does not have the option to pick and choose what menu items it wants to evaluate after bids have been opened, before the award has been made, before the contract has been entered into.
Mr. Vice Chair, just so it doesn't get lost in this, I just wanted to tell you again that I disagree with him. We disagree with him. There is a specific provision in the bid documents that says the city reserves the right to add or delete properties to this list at its sole discretion. And it doesn't say when, it doesn't limit the time that the city can do that. So again, it's up to you as to whether you want to do something else, but I want to be very clear that what the staff did, was supported by the bid documents, and even though there can be some general Florida law cited about bidding and so forth, the specific bid documents take precedence over any of that case law. So again, it's your discretion as to what you want to do, but I want to make it clear that what the staff did was appropriate and in accordance with the bid documents.
Ms. Waldman?
I appreciate the fact that you're standing there, you're representing your client, but in a way I feel like you're threatening us, and you are threatening us, I think, because you're saying, did I misunderstand when he said that we were outside the law of Florida, I mean, you have said some pretty strong comments tonight, but at the bottom line, we're getting more services for a lower cost. And that's because our CRA director and our director of Parks and Recs, through the management, went out and found a way to increase the services and lower the cost for the taxpayers. And at the end of the day, the bottom line is that's the only thing that I am thinking about. And I trust my attorneys. I trust that they have done their research and their work. I understand it's very hard for you because when you lose a bid, hey, I'm in real estate. I lose bids all the time. So I understand that, and I hope we have a mutual, appreciation of that. But I don't understand why you sign off, you know these things, and then you bring an attorney and you stand here and you make me, I'll speak for myself, feel very uncomfortable because I know what really was done. And at the end of the day, we have to save money. We're in a crucial time with the economy. And if we can get more services for a lower cost, because these gentlemen, and Allison, where's Allison? She's here somewhere, because our management staff and our directors did their job, and Jerry, I applaud you because this has not been easy for you. You've had a couple of tough meetings and you've answered right on point, and I applaud you for that. So that being said, I'm done. Thank you.
I think we're ready to...
Can we vote now?
Excuse me?
Can we vote now?
Yes, sir. I think we are ready. Is there anybody else in opposition or in favor before we close the public comments? Without that, any final questions?
Excuse me, Mayor. Excuse me. Can I say two quick words? Good evening. Thank you for hearing us, first of all. My name is Christian Infante. I'm the Vice President of SFM. This is a company my father started over 30 years ago. We've been servicing the city of Homestead for over 3 years now, and we've had a great relationship with the city for the last 3 years. The only mistake that was made here was I signed a letter that I had no idea what it meant. And 3 attempts to the city through via email and phone call trying to get answers, and I felt I was damned if I would or damned if I wouldn't send the letter. And basically that's what happened, and especially after I received a phone call from the end user of the department saying, congratulations, Christian, looks like worst case scenario, you're going to be doing one section of the city and Valley Crest will be servicing the other. So the last thing in my mind was that the department was going to manipulate the bid tabulations, which, with all due respect, is what I feel has happened here. I've lost lots of bids. We've maintained 9 cities in Dade County, so I definitely don't want to come across a sore loser here. But basically, with like I said, with all due respect, we feel it was manipulated after the award. The results would be the same. You pull out locations after the award, you can still meet the budget money-wise.
Mr. Estrada, just a point of clarification. Yes, sir. Did you say that they did come in and you guys had discussions with them?
We spoke on them on... I'm sorry, didn't mean to speak over you. I'm sorry, Vice Mayor.
The letter, and he had concerns. He called, he came in and spoke with you guys in face-to-face?
It wasn't himself, it was his father, and I believe the other brother, if I'm not mistaken, or the other gentleman.
Landscape manager.
Landscape manager, I'm sorry. And that was on November 17th.
And do you feel that they were clear in what was going on that day when they left? Because the one gentleman is saying he's not clear. Do you think that it was explained to them what happened and all that day?
Yes, it was very clear that it was explained that day, and also when they responded in writing, they actually spoke to the procurement manager, Ms. Patrick, and I believe she explained it to them also over the phone.
Mayor,
Yes.
if I could quickly, that meeting was held after the letter was sent, and the other person in procurement said, Cynthia's been out the last couple days, just put something in writing and you can ask her any questions after. But I do want to make it clear, that meeting that was held on the 17th was after I had sent the letter. I'm not an attorney, I'm a landscaper. That had 3 attachments, it was over 40 pages. Very frankly, confused the heck out of me. So I felt like I was obligated to send that letter. So again, we just respectfully request either split the contract by the 2 vendors or put it out to bid. And money-wise, if you need to extend it, I mean, someone's got to cut the grass anyway, so no matter what, you need to pay for the maintenance while the bid process goes through.
Is everybody ready?
I want to, I'm sorry, I just got to interject here. I kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable, obviously this is coming before us, so I understand the method, but I do side on them in the sense of when we've gone out to contract, if we're making these changes, let's make sure that we're not dropping the ball, whether someone's missing or I didn't get a phone call. We need to make sure that these vendors, I know for the past 3 years that they've been doing a heck of a job for here. Yes or no? They've been. I know they've partaken in a lot of these landscape projects that have gone out. They've done a great deal. I know they've gone beyond the call of duty to make sure our city looks fine. All the comments that we've gotten in the past couple of years, the city looking fine. This is the company that's been behind it, working on and doing a good job. And I do side on them in the sense of, it just is, in my gut, it's not sitting right where we should have made sure 100% that it was made right. If it was 100% right, I think we would not be up here discussing this right at all. And so I'm trying to look for you guys, either we split it, we work with them, or again, if there were a company not doing a good job, and they were extremely expensive, I could see, all right, let's move on to better deals. But these guys are here willing to continue to work with us, and I think we need to also let our community, those vendors that are doing business with us, let us know that we're willing to work with them. So, I don't know if anything's possible at this point. I don't know if you guys I could see maybe some guys are made up, but I would like to see something here, maybe even splitting it.
You'd have to make a motion and see if we can get a second.
I guess the question would be to Richard, if I'd make a motion to at least for this year. Let me ask you this: splitting the contract with them, how will it affect you guys? Would it hurt you?
I have to sit with both department heads and look at the numbers. I have to sit with both of them and look at the numbers.
Is it something where they're going to have to adjust?
I can't answer that question off of that.
So you're willing to sit down and work with them in reference to?
Well, I'm not saying we wouldn't work with anyone, but I have to sit down with both directors and see, once again, budget-wise, what their issues are.
And don't get me wrong, I know you guys are doing a good job. Again, just thinking about the vendors that have been here doing good work, and again, my sense of, I'll call out the client. I want to try to answer that. So I'll make a motion.
I think that if you want to give staff an opportunity to work this
maybe
out,
even to table
then
it.
you need the motion to defer this to the next meeting, and then see whether you get a second.
And if we could table it, I guess the real concern here I heard is budget-wise. Let's work with them in reference to that. I mean, because right now that we're paying them to continue to maintain the grass, and that's your concern of what's costing us. Is that correct?
It's the department's concerns.
All right. So is that something that would that be something that you guys are willing to work out and adjusting the prices?
Yes,
where we're at?
of course.
Because that's the concern of us. Sure,
of course.
We're eating into our budget, so.
Under the new contract, if you delete those, it's the same.
Excuse me, he's got to come to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
I apologize. Again, this is Jose Infante. I'm president of SFM. Thank you, commissioners, and thank you for the city for allowing us to work the last 3 years. Your department is super professional. I know sometimes they work under the gun, and some of those things
happen like just happened right now, but I'm sure we can still make it right and we're willing to work with you in any way, shape, or form.
So, okay, so yeah, I'd like to make a motion to defer this in order for staff to work on it.
Is there a second? Failure to see second, the motion fails. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Board Member Shelley.
This is approving staff's recommendation.
Okay, yeah, yes to approve staff's recommendation.
Board Member Williams.
Yes.
Board Member Maldonado.
No.
Board Member Wallman.
Yes.
Vice Chair Burgess.
Yes.
Board Member Fairclough McCoy.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioner.
Any reports from the CRA Director?
No, sir.
Okay. Public comments we'll save for our next meeting. Motion to adjourn? Motion. Move. Okay. And we'll resume in, Madam Clerk, 5 minutes.